Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of X Vlog Live. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I am incredibly honored and thrilled to be sitting down with an artist that you've heard me mention by name, but you never got a chance to meet the man behind the pen. I'm happy to sit down here with Ben Kenobi of Twitter. He is one of the artists that not only helped Mrs. Boomstick and I get our merch store off the ground, he is also responsible for many pieces of art for the channel. And he did last year a huge refresh. Ben, brother, welcome to the program. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm nervous. Literally the first time I've ever done anything like this, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad to finally be talking to you. We've talked for a long time, so
Yep.
it's fun to be on here together.
Yeah, brother. Listen, folks, this is his first podcast ever. So let's,
Yep.
welcome in with open arms, and we're gonna have a good conversation, folks. When I wrote the show, we're gonna be talking about Ryse, Son of Rome 2. Obviously, you see it on your screen. This game is from 2013, and yes, it looks this freaking good. It is unbelievable how amazing this game still looks, still plays, and we're gonna be checking that out as we talk about some of the ongoings. We're going to be talking about ID at Xbox, folks. They had a small show yesterday. And of course, ID at Xbox is run by Chris Charla. He has been running that program for a decade now. Thanks to a recent interview with Sarah Bond, we do know that Microsoft has spent over $4 billion in 10 years, which is incredible. It is a program that celebrates and welcomes in new creatives to an industry that is at times extremely overwhelming on trying to break in to get your game off the ground. And we've seen Nintendo wrap their arms around indies with their events called Nindies, which they spotlight a lot of these up and coming developers that put games onto the Nintendo Switch. But the one that stands out for me is Microsoft, simply because they go out of their way, and the team run by Chris Charla goes out of their way to allow for someone with an idea for making a game, and they nurture that idea and they bring that game forward, and they offer a tremendous amount of help to the indie community. But of course, folks, as if PlayStation hasn't literally just been ridiculous in some of the things that they've said during the ABK deal. We have breaking news, folks, that we're going to cover. And literally, folks, there is so much news that it is going to spill over to tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom. I know we have Noof Nukem joining us. I'm trying to see if I can get King David to join us as well. We are going to have a lot to talk about. Everyone that is anyone has been talking and posting this morning about PlayStation's response to the CMA siding with Microsoft that there would not be any console industry harm for Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard. And some of the things that were said, folks, and I'm going to read some of them for you when we get into that topic, are nothing short of pathetic. Again, I was telling Ben in the green room that some of the things that I read that were literally said by Jim Ryan sound like a 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. It's embarrassing, and I got to be honest with you, someone of his age and his stature as CEO and president of PlayStation, it just screams pathetic. I'm sorry. No other way to put it. But I want to open up, folks, with what you see on your screen. Now, a couple of months ago, Ben, Crytek had put out a job posting for animators. They were looking for and set designers to work on a new unannounced game.
Yeah.
Why it was auspicious was that they had the character model for Ryse, Son of Rome. Now, what's interesting is Crytek was back at it yesterday, as a matter of fact, Ben, and they put out a tweet that simply said, "What fond memories do you have of Ryse, Son of Rome, and the journey of Marius Titus, which is the main protagonist in the game.
Hmm.
And this set off alarms, at least for me. I've been saying that this is the type of game, as a fan of Sony's brand, who has these third person, story driven, over the
Right.
shoulder types of titles. There was, I mean, Microsoft doesn't have a lot of their own, but they do have one that is a decade old, nearly a decade old.
It's
Um,
crazy.
and it's what you see on your screen, folks, is a 10-year-old game, and it still looks amazing. Ben,
Eh,
where do your fond memories come forward when you talk about Rise, Son of Rome, a game that many people passed on, and actually a fantastic launch title for Xbox One?
You know what's funny? I actually was one of those people that passed on. I played it for a little bit, but I didn't really spend a lot of time in the game. And we were talking about it at the time, like when it came out, and we'd been talking about it for the last couple days. So I loaded it up on my Steam Deck, and it's unbelievable. It looks like a game. It could come out tomorrow. I'm not saying it would be like the best looking game of the year, but I mean, it's on par with anything that would come out now. And I think Crytek has a really special skill in making games that hold up. I mean, look at Crisis. I mean, you could go back to Crisis 1 and on PC and load it up. And I mean, it looks good. They make games look really, really good.
They definitely have a knack for making whatever hardware you have and pushing
Hmm.
it to its limitations. Again, folks, what you see in front of you is from an Xbox One. Now, yes, this is obviously enhanced a bit on the Series X. I kind of wonder if we do get a two, and I got some more information that I wound up pulling from a WCCF Tech report from I believe it was last year. Good friend of the program, Special Nick of the Xbox era, was quoted in this particular story, Ben, and this was posted on April 26th of 2021. So we're almost a couple of years old. But back then, the title of the story from WCCF Tech says Rise 2 in the works, and it could be multi-platform. Xbox Insider says, and he has heard the rumor. So I have a couple of quotes from Special Nick, who is a good friend of mine. And this is what he had to say, folks, about Rise, Son of Rome 2. Um, I had a reason to believe that this person was legit because they showed me certain things that made me believe they were on the level. So, of course, the thing I got excited about the most was the fact that a new Rise is, in fact, in development. He goes on to say, so the person told me, yep, there's a new Rise in development. I can't give you dates and I can't give you quarters of when things are happening, just that there's a rise in development. And like I said, I've been given pictures of stuff that leads me to believe this person is legit. He goes on to say, the interesting part about Rise is that I have, at least at the time of whenever this was happening, and I know what I'm saying right now doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was a multi platform game, not exclusive to Xbox. Should this Rise game be happening, it seems like it's going to be a multi plat title. Now, for me personally, folks, I we're in an era that I know exclusives matter. First party exclusives matter. They absolutely do. Um, and I don't want to. I don't like the us versus them mentality. I don't mind the game coming out on multiple platforms, Ben, because
Yeah.
why shouldn't everybody play it? If you don't have an Xbox and you can play it on PlayStation, play it there. If you don't have a PlayStation and you enjoy the Switch, play it there. I don't care as long as I get a chance to play where I want to play.
Hmm.
Um, but I do have to say though, even though I do subscribe to let everyone play, Rise is it was an exclusive Microsoft IP. I think where we could get to a happy medium here, Ben,
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
if Rise Son of Rome 2 does come out and it is available on PC and Xbox and PlayStation, I would like to see Microsoft really push the envelope and get this into Xbox Game Pass day and date, because I've been saying for years that that is the exclusive. When a
Yeah,
game
yeah.
comes out, like Outriders, for instance, Ben, Outriders came out and no one knew what it was, no one knew what it was going to be, and when it dropped into Game Pass, it saw ridiculous success, even though it was available on PlayStation and PC. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the way to go. I don't the exclusive thing, I mean, I get that it started on Xbox and there are probably people like yourself that that's where you associate it. But I don't think it hurts anything if it's in other places. Like you said, if it's on Game Pass, then you finish the game you're playing and then you load you load it up. You can jump into it. And I think that would be the way to go. As long as it's in game. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't have to be, but I think that would probably ease ease the pain for a lot of people if it was in Game Pass and other platforms.
Yeah, no, I agree. I look, like I said, I don't know how, because if you remember when Mass Effect One launched on the Xbox 360,
Mhm.
that was an exclusive.
Yeah.
And then when two was released, it found its way to the PlayStation, and PlayStation One never got PlayStation 3 never got Mass Effect 1. They got like a storytelling mode to get the person or gamer acclimated with what was going on in Mass Effect 1. Being that this is and still is an exclusive to Xbox, I'm wondering how that would work. Unless, of course, there is a remake of one possibly coming to then allow for two to have better sales. Like I
Mhm,
mean,
yeah.
we've seen remakes coming this year in particular. We saw Resident Evil 4 remake. It made bank for Capcom. EA released Dead Space remake, which is phenomenal. Being that this game is in fact 10 years old, Ben, I think it could do justice for a sequel if one was remade and cheap. You know what I'm saying? Not a full
Yeah.
on $70 title. What are your thoughts on a remake to bring other gamers who might have missed out on this?
I mean, look at what you see. I mean, I can't imagine how good a remake would be. I mean, it would look like I don't know, Hellblade, right? Like that
Yeah,
level. I mean,
yeah.
imagine a remake of this game right here. I mean, it would be that would be interesting. I don't know. What do you think it is too? Or do you think it's a remake? Or both?
It's. I mean, I'll say this: a lot of people, and I'm sure the people in the chat here that are looking at this game, like, I never played this. I know, maybe they were a PlayStation gamer and just never gave this the time of day. Boot it up, go to the Game Pass, folks. Download this
Yeah.
game, play it.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I will say that one of the tropes that came away from this game was it had too much QTE, which is the
Mm,
quick time events. You'll see them. It didn't break the game for me. And again, when you see him start to chop off limbs and things of that, you're like, wow, this is amazing. So if there was one complaint that people walked away from it was that. But I think that this game, first of all, I believe that Rise Son of Rome, because of the story, was so intense and ended on such a big cliffhanger that it could have some God of War type fantasy elements added
yeah.
to it, which
Yeah.
would I think would be incredible. Because as well, I mean, like I said, it's war. You're seeing the barbarians versus the Romans, and it is a war that's going on. But there is a very hint of magical elements in the backdrop of the story, which could potentially open us up to a God of War esque type of story, where it's a little bit more fantastical. Um, I think this is. I personally, I don't know if it needs it, because this is what we see on the screen is pretty damn impressive for a
Mhm.
10-year-old game.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that if you were trying to build on the franchise and you wanted to not reintroduce, because I think that a lot of people skip this game if you want to introduce people to these characters and to this story that are going to want to get invested in part two, you know, a HD remake, or you pretty it up a little bit better with what the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X can do.
Yeah,
I think it actually could look better if you could believe it.
yeah, it doesn't seem like you would have to do much to bring it up to date, right? I mean, the settings, I don't know, maybe they could even get rid of some of the quick times with the way hard drives are now,
Yeah.
because that's kind of a loading issue from what I understand. That's why a lot of that's in them. But yeah, the shadows, the draw distance, the textures, they could, I mean, I don't know how involved all of that is, but it doesn't seem like they would have to completely remake everything. I mean, look at the world. There's plenty going on. It doesn't look like a 10-year-old game.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it looks like a PlayStation type of title, and it is on Xbox, and a lot of people have been asking for it. I would, again, I don't care so much if it's exclusive or it's not.
Yeah.
If it is, it is. If it's not, it's not. I would love to see this game get a sequel. We have it on good authority that in fact they are working on it as we speak right now. I can only imagine what a Rise Son of Rome 2 would look like, but I would also love to see what the wizards that are at Crytek, what they would do on, giving us a prettier version of the original, again, to sell this story that a lot of people skipped on. I think it would be incredible. But we will see. Only time is going to tell, folks. But look, I want to catch up on the super chats. First of all, I want to say hello to everyone here. We got over 300 people here. Please, if you're new, consider hitting the subscribe button, and more importantly, hitting the like button. While you're here listening to Ben and I break down the happenings of the Xbox world. Of course, we're going to be covering on the back end of the show what Jim Ryan said. And again, they're literally, folks, I was telling Ben, I had 13 tabs open because I was pulling stuff from FOS on Twitter. I was pulling stuff from Post Up. Everyone is Idle Sloth, of course, who is not a robot, folks. He's a real person, was out there dropping stuff down. It's Tom Warren is out there doing what Tom Warren does. So I like to talk about anything, and I can shoot from the hip, but this is one of those things that I need to read everything at least twice. So when I go into a show, I have everything in front of me. I do have some stuff pulled. We're going to get into it because I have a lot to say about the market leader who just posted in just 3 regions, folks, 400, 360, and 316% profits in the profit margins for the PlayStation 5 in February. That's all I have to say. So I don't want to hear anything about Jim Ryan and his ridiculous rants, because at this point, like I said, it is like listening to either the Charlie Brown teacher, the womp 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 womp, because that's what I hear from him. That's what I hear from Jim Ryan, or I hear a 5-year-old trying to say that the ghost ate my homework and that's why I didn't bring it in. Ridiculous. But Ben, I do want to kind of shift over to something that's close and dear to your heart, because obviously you have the nice the nice graphics behind you that you made, and we're going to be talking about what you're going to be doing with the Xbox community called fan art. And yesterday, Chris Charler and company showed off a bunch of indie titles with their ID at Xbox show, and I will admit, not everything hit for me, for sure. But again, not every game is for every gamer. And some of the games just watching on a screen sometimes don't resonate with the player until you press the download button and you give it a shot. And you're like, whoa. That happened to me with Vampire Survivors. Me too. When I just saw the screen running, I'm like, it's just not for Boom, because I don't like rogues. Yeah. Just not a roguelike kind of a guy, Ben. And I played it, and well, I don't exactly know how many hours I have into it, but it's ridiculous.
I was really late to the party on that one. It up.
Real quick, tell us about that. We were talking the other day, and you were like, "Hey, man, Vampire Survivors, I didn't get it, and now it's like crack cocaine."
I think by the third, the first game, I was like, "All right, It's cool. The second game, I started to get how to play more, and I think it was just the third playthrough where I was like, okay, I have to decide if I'm gonna get rid of this, it's gonna be a problem. I'm completely addicted to it.
Yeah.
I looked, I played for an hour, and I just wanted to turn it on and see because we were talking about indies and everything, and I was like, well, everybody's talking about how great this game is, so I'll just see. Yeah, and an hour was gone. So, and I just had to load it up, right? I mean, like Game Pass, they all just go into Game Pass, like these games that you saw in the show yesterday. That they may not click with you right away, but I mean, all you have to do. Some games you don't even have to download. I'm not sure if they're all on like XCloud, but you can just get a tablet or a phone and just try them. With it goes to the exposure, right? Like
Yes.
we were talking about it earlier, how there's an endless amount of games, and it can be hard to find a game that you want to play because like paralyzation through choice, right? It's
Yep.
almost like there's too much.
Yeah.
Um, but if it's as easy as just downloading it or just hitting start, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from finding a game that ends up being a game that you put hundreds of hours into that you would have messed otherwise if you had to spend whatever $70 on.
Well, one of the things that I love about Microsoft, specifically Xbox and ID at Xbox, at least for me, folks, it's just a personal take on the whole situation, is game creation is incredibly difficult. I started to go to school back when I first became a police officer for the NYPD. I was going to go to school and be a cop at the same time, and I was actually going to go to school for game design. And I got into a school, and I started to realize that I didn't want to learn what was behind the curtain. I thought that would ruin my experience as a gamer.
Hmm.
Um, and if you are an artist or you are someone that is, wants to get into gaming and game design, it's hard. It's a you have to have a pretty sharp mind. You got to know your math. There's a lot of long hours. Um,
So much sacrifice, so much goes into them.
yeah, yeah, and you're an artist, so you understand how much time, effort, and sometimes money that you have to invest in your said game.
Oh
What
yeah,
I
yeah.
what I find incredibly appealing, Ben, is how Microsoft or Xbox looks at a creator, and that creator is allowed to do what they want in regards to creating a game. And the ID at Xbox program has been around for a decade. It has been heralded as a great place to get involved with, and you very rarely hear. And I don't think I've ever heard any stories coming out from. I was burned by ID at Xbox.
Mhm, right, right.
And some of the things that again that they showed off yesterday specifically were not for me. But the one that jumps off the page, Ben, is the last case of Benedict Fox.
Yeah,
That game looks like it's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard.
yeah,
There was another one, the Explorer, I think it was. It was like a first-person shooter
yeah. It
that you
started out kind of like Fable, and
yeah,
yeah,
it's
a cell shaded Fable.
wild. And I was like, okay, so maybe that might not be my game of the year, but that game looks really fun and incredibly wild, especially because it's cell shaded graphics.
Hmm.
Yesterday for you, well, you know what? Let's get into let's talk about the ID at Xbox program, because I think we had an amazing conversation, in the green room prior to coming live. What is your overall, as an artist, as someone that does creations for your job, and you've done creations for me, and you've worked for other people within the gaming industry, um what does the ID at Xbox mean for an artist looking to make their first game?
I think one of the most important things is, like you said, there's so much that happens from the idea or the concept when you come up with something to the end where it becomes a final product, right? And like even with some of these graphics that I post on Twitter, like you have an idea at the beginning, and by the time you end up with it, it is can be so different from what you initially wanted to make. And I can't even imagine how that happens when you're talking about a whole team of people and years of development. And it probably at some point becomes, rather than just getting to focus on creating the game that you wanted to make, it probably becomes a game of balancing what you're not going to do and what you're going to be able to do, because you have finite resources and you have to make decisions like, where are we going to put our time and money into? And I have to imagine, if you're a small team and a team that doesn't have a lot of resources, someone like ID at Xbox coming along and giving you that boost to go back or get closer to your initial idea or concept would I mean, it would be everything, right? And then on top of it, they help with exposure. I mean, it's amazing. It's the philosophy behind it. I didn't really see the similarities as much, and we'll get into it later with the fan art thing, but it's kind of the same idea that I'm going to be trying to do with just artists in general, posting their fan art and encouraging people. But I mean, it's to have someone on your side. I think it's invaluable. I think it's very, very important. And for someone like Xbox to be doing it, it's not necessary, right? I mean, they could be doing it other ways. I mean, they have more money than most countries. They could just be buying and buying, but they they're putting it into you said. It was like billions, right? I think it was like, you said
4 billion is what Sarah Bond said. So again, I talked about this. If you've heard me mention this again, it's because it's so much money, and it's relevant to the conversation. Ben, what Sarah Bond confirmed during the Xbox On interview, which was fan-freaking-tastic. She had confirmed that in the 10 years of the program, they have paid out $4 billion.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now think about that, folks. Ben, that's $400 million per year that they are investing into the indie community to get games onto their platform and give a voice. And I want to reiterate on what I said, because it just dawned on me, because I had such great thoughts when we were in the green room. For me, the most important thing with ID at Xbox is that it gives creatives a voice.
Yeah.
And I don't think any people understand how important that is. Some people, like the gentleman who brought us Vampire Survivors, that was one dude, and he brought it to us because of his love of Castlevania, among other things. And look at the Raging Society. A $5 game, Ben,
Yeah,
was almost Game of the Year for me personally, and it was almost many people's Game of the Year. A $5 game.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's crazy. The exposure. I mean, and they're doing it to they're helping out people that have concepts like that. I mean, if you were trying to sell that idea to an investor, I mean, it would probably be pretty hard to get someone to give you money to create a game, and to have a program like this, because it's a risky investment, right? But they're doing it. They're doing it for a lot of people.
As a matter of fact, something that was announced just the other day was the ID at Xbox Developer Acceleration Program, which I think is phenomenal. And you know what I love about this program is in the mission statement that they have provided us to read, and I'm going to use literally from Xbox. And it says this, Ben: the program's mission is to empower underrepresented creators with the resources and information needed to bring their creativity, innovation, and originality, I'm sorry, to Xbox. This is a big deal. And it's a big deal because, in some countries in the world, resources for game developments are just not even a thought, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's life is the goal in some countries where it's underdeveloped and it's unrepresented. And it is, like I said, this is why I'm such a big Xbox fan, because inclusivity is preached, and it's not just preached, but it's displayed, and it's acted upon. I don't,
Mhm.
like, there are some communities that need to be exclusive, and I don't like that. And it's why I'm such a big fan of Xbox, is because they want everyone to enjoy gaming. Race, creed, color, sexual orientation, religion, status, financial, wherever you are in finance, it doesn't matter. Every financial station is welcome into Xbox. And that's why I continue to preach Xbox Game Pass, because, like I said, whether you're making six figures or barely 4 or 5, Microsoft allows for you to be a part of the gaming conversation, unlike Nintendo, which charges now $70 for their games,
Yeah.
charges us for remakes, and Sony and the way they do business. That is this program is amazing. Anything you want to say about the mission statement, Ben?
Yeah, it seems like it's just more of what Xbox has felt like from the beginning, right? Like
Yeah.
it always kind of seemed like a a PC console hybrid as far as the community goes, right? Because PC has an extreme community, extremely dedicated community. People that love PC are a very close community, and they really love the PC. And it seems like Xbox has kind like initially when they first came out, it brought that right with Xbox Live. They've always been about community and bringing people in. And with FanFest, they always bring people in. I think they really understand that a huge aspect of being a gaming company is the gamers, right? And there are other ways to go about it. I mean, Nintendo makes incredible games. They're an amazing platform, but it's very tightly curated. They make what they want to make. There doesn't, as far as I know, they don't seem to really be into mods or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I think if anybody does make um, a version, then they kind of get rid of it pretty quickly. But Xbox embraces it.
Yep.
And Bethesda does. I mean, Todd Howard in a recent video was talking about how they actually hire modders from the community. I mean, and that goes through to all the way through to ID at Xbox, right? Just bring
Yep.
in the community. It's all like I mean, I'm not naive. They are a huge company. And at the end of the day, a lot of it's about money, but it seems like it's a priority that they understand how important that the community is.
Yeah, they definitely go out of the way to put the community front facing. And you're right, they do understand the importance of community. They understand the importance of acknowledging that community. That the Xbox would not have a platform to build upon and make millions and millions of dollars if it wasn't for the community. But
Yeah, they go
listen,
out of their way to interact with the community. I mean,
yeah.
look at Aaron. I mean, he's on Twitter every day talking to people in the community and making people feel like they're a part of it. And we are a part of it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why we're all here.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely the most inviting of all the three platforms. It's easy to see, right? Like Sarah Bond on
Mhm.
Twitter interacting with people.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to
Um,
say just Aaron. There's
no,
a
no, no, no.
lot
I
of
mean, but
people.
no. Yeah, but Aaron in particular, he's been banging the community drum for years,
Mhm.
right? Now Sarah, she's been with the company for quite some time, but she just recently, in the last couple of years, has exploded on the scene as being a socialite on Twitter
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
interacting with people, which is amazing. Phil Spencer plays Destiny with people with randos. Hey, Phil, can I jump in? Yeah, jump in, jump in. You're
Yeah.
playing with the head of Microsoft Gaming. Who does that?
Yeah, yeah.
Who
There's something
does
very
that?
cool about seeing that he completed Vampire Survivors and plays with people in the community. If you can catch him while he's on, he just plays with whoever's there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
It is incredibly cool, and it's something that you don't see from Nintendo. It's something you don't see from Sony, and we're going to get into Sony right now because I mean, there really isn't any much. Well, there isn't much more that we can say about how amazing ID at Xbox is. They just announced their Accelerator program, which I think is huge. Um, they've been doing this for 10 years, a decade now. And like I said, not every game that they're going to show is going to be your cup of tea, but I'm sure that there is something there that you're going to appreciate and like. And again, like I said, for me, the one that jumps off the page and like, wow, a revelation even isn't because I'm full of it. I love indies. I've been playing indies for years. Remember, I started out with Circus Atari, for crying out loud, which used the paddles and was awful. Shout out to Sith Lord, who actually just asked me about that the other day. I used to play with my dad. We sit
Mhm.
there with the paddles, and I hated those. The paddles were
Yeah,
terrible,
yeah.
but we played it. It was gaming. But I love indies. I've been playing indies for years. I appreciate it. Probably for me anyway, the most memorable and exciting time for indies was during the Xbox 360 era, where they had the Summer of Arcade.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, talk about a solid 5-year run of just some of the best indies. I mean, that like are literally still looked upon as cult classics.
Yeah.
Just Limbo was a part of that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
Braid, I remember I found Braid.
Braid is another one.
Yeah, yeah,
Classic game.
yeah, very
Yeah,
cool game. And those are those concepts they would be such a hard sell, because they're, they don't when you first hear the description, it doesn't seem like it would have mass appeal, right? So it would be hard to dump a bunch of money into it,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
they are. Like, I wrote a couple down. That Homestead Arcana, I think. It had like it seemed that like the cat was the narrator.
Yes.
And you were going into um like this purple section of the world that had been changed. But again, like the concepts are so creative. It's awesome to see that they're helping them come to life, and that you're going to just be able to download it and play it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled up a list, and I'm not going to read them all because there's a lot here. But I do want to read a little bit of what came the way of. Again, this was a very early program when they probably they first started like the ID at Xbox, or the idea of bringing indie games to a console.
Mhm.
Shadow Complex. I'm still waiting for part
Oh,
two. What an amazing game! Castle Crashers,
yeah, yeah,
Teenage
yeah.
Mutant Ninja Turtles Reshelled, Trials HD. They had Limbo. They had Bastion. Two of my favorite. From Dust. They had Deadlight. And for me, the two that jump off the page, my most favorite of the indies during the Xbox arcade days was Dust and Elysian Tale and Deadlight. Oh my god, I played both those games twice, and they were
Yeah.
long. Loved those games.
It's a very cool balance having in the ecosystem like a really thriving set of indies to play amongst all these other AAA games. Completely
Yeah.
different experiences. It's very cool.
Absolutely agree. But listen, folks, listen, as we close in on 400 people here, I ask a couple of things. First, hit the like button and consider subscribing if you're finding the channel for the first time. But also, you know, tweet this out. Let people know that we are live, that we're going to get into some of Jimmy Boy's comments because that's what we're going to move on to now. And like I said, whenever it's like that mafia movie. Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. Every time I try to get away from ABK and just talk about gaming, Jim Ryan does something stupid. Sony does something stupid, and he did something dumb. And it's again, folks, we're going to cover it in full detail with a very large panel tomorrow on Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Ben and I are going to cover one of the quotes. And of course, I'm going to bring up a good friend of the program, Post Up, on Twitter. If you're not following him, you probably should be. It's at postup_BBB, BBB, and he is consistently dropping information. So he put out a tweet earlier this morning, regarding Sony's response, folks, to the CMA reaffirming that there is not going to be any industry or market harm if Microsoft is approved to buy Activision Blizzard King, specifically when you're talking about Call of Duty. They gave us a breakdown that completely moved Sony off of the board. That happened with the EU Commission. We know that Japan has already approved the deal. So what are we referring to? Well, the CMA last week came out with their findings that, again, Sony's complaints were not justified based on the evidence that was presented to them by all parties. They agreed with Microsoft that even if they decided to pull Call of Duty off of PlayStation, it would do more harm to Microsoft than it would do to PlayStation. So we know what Microsoft had to say. Of course, they cheered this on, as you would if you're trying to buy this company that is going to make a lot of money for your investors. But we didn't hear what Sony had to say, and there is a lot to get into, Ben. Now, again, I'm going to read verbatim for what Post Up put this morning. He says, Jim Ryan tells the CMA in its response to the PF amendum that if Microsoft creates a version of Call of Duty for PlayStation that is slightly worse than the Xbox version, PlayStation as a business would never recover. Now, that is Post Up giving you his opinion. I'm going to read verbatim of what Jim Ryan told the CMA, and this is where I get to the point of nauseum, because it's lies. The market leadership is clear. In the regions that Jim Ryan is crying like a 5-year-old, PlayStation rules the roost. In some places, in some markets, it's upwards of 80%. Mostly 70% when you talk about the PlayStation versus Xbox. Now, if you included Nintendo, which the CMA and Sony were happy to remove off the table because, they're not high-performance consoles, it's 80-20. But this is what Jim Ryan had to say, Ben. Any degradation in the price, performance, or quality of play on PlayStation, or any delays on release would quickly harm SIE's reputation and cause a loss of engagement and of players. As SIE's CEO, Jim Ryan, explained to the CMA, at the remedies hearing, if PlayStation received a degraded version of Call of Duty, it would seriously damage our reputation. Our gamers would desert our platform in droves, and network effects would exacerbate the problem. Our business would never recover. Wow. There is a lot to get into. I think that's a load of BS. I think that Jim Ryan is smoking something and sounds more like a 5-year-old than he does a president and CEO. I get it. He has to do this. He has to defend, PlayStation's honor and the brand and all that other nonsense. But the truth of the matter is that they are in no way going to be boxed out of Call of Duty. What's interesting, Ben, is some of the comments from Jim Ryan are things that Sony as a platform does right now to Xbox in degraded quality. We know that for a fact. They're afraid that they're going to do it, but guess what? Microsoft isn't going to do that because it's going to lose them money, and they don't want to lose money. Ben, what are your thoughts on this one particular paragraph that we're focusing on regarding Jim Ryan's statements to the CMA?
I actually think it would be it would have the opposite effect. It's not like this is a new game and nobody is sure how it's going to run, right? Like, so if a new Call of Duty came out and it started to all of a sudden run horribly on a PlayStation game and run really well on an Xbox game, it would be very apparent what was going on and it would make Xbox look bad. It wouldn't be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been around for so long and it runs really well. The games run really well on PlayStation. It has a huge audience on PlayStation. So if all of a sudden 2024's Call of Duty started to have a ton of bugs and looked really bad and the resolution took a huge dip from the previous year, or if just any shenanigans were going on, I mean, it's not gonna make PlayStation look bad. Everybody's gonna turn around and know what would be going on. Content would be missing that was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, it doesn't make sense. It seems like it would be the opposite. It would, Xbox would have no reason to wanna do that because they would just look bad. There's a precedent for how good Call of Duty already is. So, if it took a dip, everybody would know where to look. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Just doesn't make sense. I don't think it would happen.
I don't think it would happen either. And I want to give a shout out to Florian Muller of at FOSS Patents on Twitter. He is another one that I've been keeping a keen eye on, and he's been dropping information after information. So he posted something that was pretty interesting this morning regarding this, and he has it in red for me to easily read. October 28th of 2022, Ben. This is what came out of SIE or Jim Ryan. He says, the decision based on compelling and extensive evidence, including Microsoft's and SIE's, Activision's internal documents. Now this is CMA. I'm sorry. Independent surveys, engagement, spend, and share data, multiple third-party views, Microsoft's own public statements, and through the analysis of Microsoft's past conduct. SIE agrees with the decision's finding. It believes strongly that the transaction will harm competition, industry participants, innovation, and consumers. That's what they had to say on October 28th of 2022. Well, that has changed, folks. March 31st, 2023, which was obviously just a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I'm sorry. The CMA's reversal. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is Sony throwing the CMA under the bus. Sony says the CMA's reversal of its position on its console's theory of harm is surprising, unprecedented, and irrational. The provisional findings, the PFs, assessed a significant damage to the market, and that's what Sony believes is going to happen. Them calling the CMA irrational when just a year ago they were rah-rahing the CMA is not surprising, but pretty ridiculous, Ben. What are your thoughts?
The whole thing just doesn't seem to make sense, right? Because it appears that it's going to happen. I mean, it's looking pretty likely. And this is such an extreme, like, go nuclear response that the dust is going to settle after this, and everybody's going to have to go back to doing business with each other. And it just, I don't know. It seems like such an extreme, like, to go all out to try to do anything you can to stop this, including seemingly burning bridges. I mean, I have to imagine Sony is going to acquire a studio at some point, and they're going to have to go back through this process, and it's going to be the other way around. So, I mean, it just, I don't know. It seems pretty odd that, and I don't think anybody's gonna leave. I mean, there may be some people, but I don't think the people that love PlayStation and are deep in that ecosystem are going to leave PlayStation just because an Xbox logo pops up at the beginning. I mean, that's really all that would probably change.
No, I mean, listen. The one thing that I want to make clear is Call of Duty is staying on PlayStation, and I say, who cares? Because as a Game Pass,
Yeah.
Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, I don't care where Call of Duty goes, as long as I can press download and don't have to pay $76.43 for the game.
That would be
Uh,
nice.
yeah, that'd be just press download and it's there. And if you want to play the multiplayer, which I don't play, go ahead and play all day long. I don't necessarily see people leaving PlayStation in droves for Call of Duty. And we talked about this in the green room before. The idea that Sony is putting forth that people are going to run out of PlayStation, run away from the PlayStation platform is ridiculous at best. I have multiple platforms. Now I get
Yeah.
it. I understand for some people that are not that invested in the in gaming, maybe one console is enough for you. There's also a financial situation that's attached to this conversation. Maybe you can't afford to have both a PlayStation and an Xbox. I totally understand that as well. But to suggest, Ben, that people are going to leave in droves, and he actually said that they're going to lose so much money, is ridiculous. I think at some point, Ben, the industry changing ideology that Microsoft and Xbox have brought forth with Xbox Game Pass, allowing for an individual and I keep saying this because it does matter, folks. Money is a thing. Money issues for some people are an actual thing. And allowing for every financial station to be a part of gaming is one of the most appealing and important aspects of Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
You don't need 76.43 to buy your one and done title. You download it, you pay your monthly subscription, and you play. And if it's not your type of game, you just move along. I think people forget that. This is again, I find it to be laughable at best. But Ben, before I get back to you and we continue this conversation, I do want to just catch up on the super chats that have popped up over here.
Yeah.
The first one of the day comes the way of a very good friend of the program. Drawn TJ drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Microsoft needs to buy Crytek and all of the studios they're working with immediately after the ABK deal. I actually can see some of that happening, but I don't think it's going to be right after. I think they're going to really focus on integrating Activision into the daily day-to-day happenings. I think what for me personally, as putting the human element first, I would like to see Microsoft really drive the point home with its employees that they're going to acquire from Activision, Blizzard, and King, and make those make those employees, the folks that actually make games, understand that this is not going to be a Bobby Kotick run Activision or Blizzard or King. They need to get him out immediately. I know he's going to stay on for the transition. He needs to go, and they need to work on, integrating Activision and its employees before they do anything else. That again, that's just my human element coming forth. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Jim Ryan's statements smell of desperation. Indeed, they do. Drawn TJ drops an additional, not one, but two $5 super chats. And the first one, he says this: I want to be a creative director of a game. I want to create my own game. I'm just not smart with math or coding. What could help me? I mean, brother, the only thing I can say is put your head in a book. And as much time as you spend gaming, read, learn. I mean, if you can go to school, go to school. If you want, I don't ever want to learn what goes on into making a game. I don't care, because I just want to enjoy the game. I don't want to know what's behind the curtain. It ruined the magic for me. But I would say put your head in a book, go start reading C++, and get a computer that you can. Any advice for him, Ben?
There's a lot of really small studios. You'd probably be shocked if you looked them up in your area, making smaller games. I don't know. Maybe reach out and just ask them. Maybe maybe there's an internship program or something. There's always ways where you can find a little nook and cranny to squeeze yourself into to get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, listen, again, it's all about your personal effort that you're going to put into it. If you can, if that's what you want to do, make that the thing that's in front of you, and just put that carrot on the stick and keep chasing it until you get it. That's the best advice, brother. So thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the comment. He also goes, I can explain the. Just another $5 super chat says, I can explain to the exact detail of a game I want to create. I just want your opinions. Don't forget about the super chats. Don't worry, brother. We haven't forgot about them. And yeah, listen. Again, that's the best way I can. Best thing I could say is, if you are really intent on becoming a game developer or working in that industry, you got to put your head in a book, brother. You got to start studying. You got to start learning. For me, I'm an old man. That ship has passed. And even when I was a younger man, in my 20s, I wanted to get into game development. When I got there, I didn't want to step through the door. I was like, that's it. You know what? I don't want to know what's going on. I just want to play games, and that's where I am today. And now I'm a podcast. Listen, let me tell you something. I knew nothing about content creation. I mean, I was law enforcement. I used to chase people with guns all the time. This is what I did. If you would have told me, hey, listen, 10 years from, when you retire, you're going to be a personality on YouTube, I'd be like, you're out of your freaking mind. You're crazy. I wouldn't even know where to start. Folks, my first ever video is I wouldn't subscribe to myself. It was free. It's still up there. Go look at it. November 3rd, 2017. It's my first video ever. It is awful, dude. It is terrible. I didn't even know how to make a thumbnail. The thumbnail that's there is of the game I was playing. I believe I was playing Wolfenstein. It was terrible, but I leave it there for perspective. Yeah. And what did I do when I didn't know? I asked and I learned and I kept driving. And here we are all these years later. We have a network of shows. So just put your head down in the books, brother, and you'll get it. Brett Bingham, just very generous, $5 from Chen, says, is Jim implying that the Series X could show more power if they don't require parity? Probably. And he knows it, because the PlayStation 5 is less powerful than the Xbox. I mean, that's just the numbers, folks. The numbers are there. But I do want to continue this conversation, Ben. Again, Florian Muller, who I'm going to try and do a one-on-one with. I've been talking back and forth with him on Twitter. He's made his way to Destin Legary's show, which Destin, I'm sure I'm going to watch 2 or 3 of his videos, because he's been killing it as well. Hogue Law is probably going to, Hogue Law is back. Thank goodness for Hogue Law. He's going to be, he's probably doing a couple of videos. I'll be checking him out as well. He put out another tweet. When was this? Let's see how long ago. This was not too long ago. Today, as a matter of fact. He says, Sony makes it sound like they want to appeal a CMA decision to clear Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal, and that would be to CAT, which is above the CMA. That would not go well for PlayStation with CAT. They're probably not even going to talk to them. And such an appeal, according to Florian, would not prevent the deal from closing. And he says, I doubt Sony would seek a divestiture, which is splitting off Activision from Microsoft, because it wouldn't have any realistic chances of prevailing in court. So yeah, it does look like the deal is going to go through, folks, as we have been saying for the last couple of days since last week's decisions. And again, the more I see some of the responses, and again, folks, I have everything in front of me, but everything was breaking. Like, I was talking to Ben on the phone. He's like, dude, you got to be going crazy. I was trying to figure out where we were going to go with the show, because obviously this is breaking news. We have to talk about it. I do want to close out, Ben, on this last statement from you regarding this current situation with the CMA. When you look at how dominant PlayStation is, I don't even understand why they're even commenting anymore. They're not. Again, you want to argue opinions. You don't agree with mine. Let's have a conversation. Not a problem. But what you can't argue are numbers. Numbers are definitive. Numbers are hashtag facts. And the hashtag facts, Ben, are simple. Microsoft is in third place. Xbox is in third place. And in some regions of the world, they are barely scratching the surface as opposed to the dominance that is PlayStation.
Right.
One of the things that I personally don't understand about PlayStation's mentality is they have ownership of some of the greatest IP in gaming that they're not taking advantage of. We were talking about this before. Why isn't Sony putting their heads in the ground for development on a new siphon filter or a new
There's so many.
SOCOM or a new Twisted Metal, which there's a show coming out?
I would love a new Twisted Metal.
I don't know where is the Last of Us factions. Have we seen anything of this that was supposed to launch with the Last of Us 2 and never did? I mean, again, they have been so stuck in buy our box, buy our game, nothing exists, that they're being literally left behind for all of us to see. I mean, Nintendo, who has been stuck in their ways for decades, have innovated in a way where they brought this hybrid handheld that has 720p graphics and is only the best-selling console of them all.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, instead of Sony, I mean, the deal is done. They lost. Jim Ryan, you lost, brother. Just pack it up and go home. Start shredding the documents. You lost. That's it. Shouldn't they now focus or be laser focused on, okay, we're not losing Call of Duty because they have it. They're going to have for 10 years. We're going to have parity. Microsoft is going to make a ton of money from them. As a matter of fact, they're going to even get a raise because they were taking less money from Activision. Microsoft is going to give them the full 30%. So should they now be laser focused on bringing some of these IPs to fruition that could give Call of Duty a run for its money, like a SOCOM?
It does seem like it would make more sense to just focus on what they're known for. Call of Duty is huge. Everybody knows it sells well every year. This all just seems like it came out of nowhere, right? And it's all reactionary. Like, it didn't seem like it was in the works for years. I mean, I think Phil Spencer even said that this deal was not part of our long-term plan. It just kind of came out. They offered it to somebody else, I believe, and then they didn't go for it. And then they offered it to Microsoft and they moved forward with it. So I think it's all just reactionary, like a shell shock to Sony. Like, oh no, like we're going to lose one of the biggest selling games on our platform. And they're probably worried about the perception, but their perception is rock solid, right? They make incredible games. I mean, even if you're not a PlayStation gamer, you know that they make like Nintendo, right? They're known for making incredible games. So it's not like they're struggling in any way, and they do have a lot to work with. I do think that they should focus more on their strengths and stop worrying about this possibly maybe being owned by a different company. And I don't know. Yeah. I mean, we would all benefit if that was the focus, right? Instead of fighting about who owns the IP, if they started making a new SOCOM or Twisted Metal.
Resistance Fall of Man is another one. They can go back and try again with a Killzone. There are so many IP that they currently own, and and in closing, because I really want to focus on the project that you're heading, which is of course the Xbox fan art. I want to talk. Before we get outros, I want to get into that as well. There is something to be said, and I've said this on Twitter. I've said this on many of my shows. Sony's entire market platform has been built on holding content from others. That is what they do. That is what they have always done. And the fact that now someone else is going to do that to them and they have a problem with it is where I call foul. Yes, Call of Duty is going to stay on PlayStation for at least a decade, and that's good if you play Call of Duty there. But what that doesn't guarantee, Ben, is the next Spyro or the next Crash Team Racing that it's going to have potentially Xbox characters in, or the next game that comes out from Infinity Ward that is rumored to be a Mass Effect meets Call of Duty in space. These are all going to be exclusives, and if you want to play them, you're going to either have to play on PC, and we know that most PlayStation players have $5,000 rigs because they told us they didn't need an Xbox, that they had these rigs. So if you have a rig, then you can just subscribe to Xbox Game Pass for $15 a month, and you're good to go, and you can just download the games. But listen, again, we're going to cover this in further detail with a bit of salt, because I'm hoping that we can get King David on, who is king of salt when it comes to Jim, Dance Ryan, Moves, Lion Ryan, whatever you want to call him. But I do want to talk about you, Ben, and I want you to introduce what you're doing, because I think your idea of bringing artistic talent together for the purpose of showing your love for the Xbox brand is brilliant. And it's something that is fresh, it's innovative. No one has done this before. And, you've been talking for quite some time with me behind the scenes. You've been talking with some other people, which I'm not inclined to say. If you want to tell who you've been talking to, you can do that. But folks, this is going to have some muscle behind it. And I'm so happy to have you on today's show. Ben, what is the Xbox fan art initiative that you're putting forth?
So it's going to be kind of broken down. There's one goal, but it's going to be kind of broken down into two different parts. The one aspect of the show is going to be engaging with the community and really community focused, with having like yourself and other creators within the community on and highlighting fan art. It's going to be Xbox focused, but that's just because of the community, the really tight community. This is where I really discovered and made a lot of friends. I started talking to people that I never even thought that I would have a conversation with, and now I deal with them regularly. And the amount of support that I've gotten, that aspect of the show will be doing giveaways. We're going to do monthly giveaways, not as like a gimmick, but more as like an incentive to get people to share their work.
Love it.
Art is very, very personal. And I learned really quickly when I started posting things on Twitter how getting some negative reactions or even positive reactions, how personal you can take it. So it's going to be completely focused on positivity. It's going to, there's, and if people share other platforms, whatever, just of anything that they love, any fan art that they love, it could be Mario, whatever, how, if they express themselves through their art, we're going to highlight it. And the concept between the giveaways, I'm going to do Xboxes and art kits, just because throughout my entire life they went hand in hand. It's always been, they've both always been an escape for me. I just not too long since I've been posting on Twitter, I found out that when I was younger, I was given a diagnosis of being neurodivergent, and
Okay.
it really it was a shell shock. Having me go back and look throughout my life, just reflecting on so many things that didn't make sense, or trying. It was an autism spectrum
Okay. That's
diagnosis.
that. You know what? I'm super honored, brother, that you would share something so personal. That's a big deal, brother. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, and the community really helped me um, kind of process that, and it was overwhelming. And Aaron, I was talking to Aaron, and he was really supportive.
And Aaron, this is
Um,
Aaron Greenberg you're talking about, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Aaron Greenberg. And then at Fan Fest, he brought me on, and I just found myself kind of in an unbelievable situation where I was surrounded by so much support. And it was overwhelming. I was on stage. I've grown up loving these games, right? Having them be an escape for me. And there I am talking to Aaron face to face, and he's telling me that, with the work that he does outside of Xbox, um, we were just standing there, and he said, the way your brain works, you're not at a deficit. It's a superpower. And just kind of from that point on, I was thinking about what I could do for the community, and how I can have like a long-term goal for having a positive effect. And so I decided that I'm going to do whatever I can do to pass that experience on to other people, through highlighting their work. I Having someone in your corner is it's everything, especially
Yeah.
if you're on the fence about sharing something so personal. Um, and going back to the combination of the two being an escape, and why I wanted to have those giveaways kind of go together, is because these games and these worlds are incredibly inspiring, right? And I've always found inspiration through video games into my own art. So that's kind of where they tie together, and why I want to be able to give them to as many people as I can. And if the show gets an audience and it gets bigger, I'll do more. I'll do as much as I can. But for now, I'm going to be doing whatever I can. Um, I've been able to make some money on here through, working with a couple different creators. And I just decided I'm going to turn around and put all of that back into the community, and provide as many people as I can with, something that might help them reach for their goals. The other aspect of the show is going to be interviewing people that are already working within the industry,
Yes.
artists in the industry. Not a typical conversation about where, like, the games that they're working on now, but what got them there, like whether or not video games and art were a narrative throughout their life, like how much of an influence it led them to become where they are now. I think it'd be really interesting for people who are aspiring to, like the super chat earlier, the person that wanted to become a developer. I think it would be really inspiring to hear from people that work within the industry, about how art has affected their lives and the route that they took, whether they went to school, whether they didn't. There's a million different stories, and I think it'd be really fun to share them from the people who are in the industry.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it, brother. I know you have a lot on tap, folks. We're gonna get to where you can follow Ben and subscribe to a fan art. He has his personal account on Twitter. He also has the fan art account. We're gonna get all of that. All of that will be in the descriptions for you to get over there and subscribe. And if he does put forth a YouTube channel, which I believe he's working on, you'll be able to go there and check that out. But
Yeah,
listen,
and
let
we'll
me
have
get
a site under the same name. We'll be sharing
nice.
people's work. I There's going to be a co-host I'm not going to say who it is, but it's a really well-known person within the community. I'm going to let them kind of introduce themselves when their camera's all set up, but I think it's going to
Yeah,
be
I know
pretty
who it is, but
exciting.
I can't say. So
It'll be really
my lips are
exciting.
sealed.
And I apologize for the rambling. Like I said, it's the first time.
No, brother. This is a
So bear with
conversational
me.
podcast, brother. We're here to listen and have conversations, and you knocked it out of the park. But let me just grab these last couple of generous super chats that popped in here. Raiden Blade drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, "So SIE is fully aware that parity only applies to maxing out the hardware. Regulators won't punish Xbox because they maxed out both consoles. One is weaker, and that is the PlayStation 5." And which is why they're coming. They're releasing sooner than later a PlayStation 5 Pro, because they didn't bring their A game when they designed it. Hopefully, it's a small looking unit too. Gamer by Choice, generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, maybe Sony is about to do something else that, combined with Call of Duty entering Game Pass, will push people away in droves. So maybe they are in trouble. I don't think they're in trouble. And I think that there are a lot of traditional gamers who buy games and play on a PlayStation. That is their motto. That is their platform. That has been the tradition for SIE for decades. Buy my box, play my game, nothing else exists. That is how Sony has done their business. That, unfortunately, is an old model. Microsoft in 2017 kicked the door in and said, we're going to do things differently with this subscription service. And they were ahead of the curve. And they launched Xbox Game Pass, and 30 million players plus later, it is successful. And it has changed the industry for the better. And it also has opened the door for creators of every size, whether it's a AAA studio or someone that's made a game made by one person, i.e. Vampire Survivors. This is a platform you can put your game on. We give you a bag of money. We put your game into our service. It gets exposure, and you go and you become successful. Now, is that every game? No. But there's something to be said about Sony charging developers, even regardless of size, $25,000 to be put on their store where they can get exposure, and it's up into the wind. It's just thrown to the wind, and if people pick up the game, you know, good for you. If they don't, oh well, because Sony focuses more on AAA development and the bangers, as the kids say, as opposed to the way Microsoft does things. Every game counts, and that's why Sony is going to fail, and that's what they're afraid of. Drawn TJ drops an additional $2 super chat and says, "Thanks, Boom. You're the best, brother. No problem. But anytime you need advice, hit me up. If not here in DM, I'm more than happy to talk with you." But Ben, this has been a great 70, just about 80 minutes, which is normally what X-Vlog is. We got the 3 topics. We got a chance to talk about your program in Xbox, or fan art, which is very exciting. Please, before we get on out of here, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, both of your Twitter accounts.
So I'm at Ben Kenobi 2020. It's where I post all of my fan art. And we have at Xbox_fan art. It's going to be Instagram and Twitter handle are both the same. We'll be posting on both of them. We're going to launch at the beginning of May.
Okay.
We'll have some people on, and we're going to talk about what the fan art submittals will be for. It's going to be themed.
Okay.
At the beginning of May, and then at the end of May, we'll share a lot of fan art that has come in, and we'll pick a few people and do some giveaways, and hopefully have a few interviews in between. So we're real excited for it, and I'll start posting some more information about it soon.
Great. Awesome. And listen, folks, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please hit the like button. Of course, hit the subscribe button, because, you know, obviously we're trying to, you know, I put a lofty goal for me and Mrs. Boom. We want to try and hit 15K by the end of the year. That is a stretch for sure. We hit 12K and we're coasting. We're doing some good numbers on a regular basis, but we can only get there with your help. So if you are enjoying the content and you do want to see the channel continue to grow, I do ask that you subscribe, you hit the like button, and more importantly, share it out on the socials. Let people know that we exist. Now, I am going to drop the link for the merch store that everyone has been asking for. We're doing really well there. We've sold over 40 pieces, which is like honestly bonkers. And Ben Kenobi, being that you're here, I got to shout you out. The Xbox Factor podcast design is the best selling of them all.
Nice. Glad I could help.
Yeah, no, listen, brother. That's why I came to you, and we went back and forth on a few things, and you had this stacking of the boxes idea, and I said, wow, that's fantastic. Look, it winds up being one of the best selling ones. What I'm going to do, folks, I'm going to run you the commercial that was made for me and Mrs. Boom by Sean Labrie. And if you're interested, still, you can type in the code BoomStick in all caps at checkout and get 15% off your total order. Check out the commercial. Here we go. It's got to be pretty surreal for an artist to see your work in a commercial, right? Like, how crazy is that?
It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for XVlog Live. Again, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be back at the newest findings from Sony's response to the CMA. That is Breakfast with Boom tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, I want to say a big thank you to all the super chats that came in. I can't thank you enough for the support, because those do allow for us to make these kind of moves, like better equipment and better artwork. And of course, launching the merch store was a big part of that. So thank you for the generosity as always. And of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. He would tell me, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of XVlog Live.